Hello, hello. Welcome to Walking the Path. I'm really grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful to be back. I'm back in Costa Rica. I have been on sabbatical for a month, traveling in all the national parks of the Western United States. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here. Today, I want to talk to you about AT-ONE-MENT. Today is Yom Kippur. It started last night at sundown, and it's sundown to sundown, a day of atonement, of fasting, reflection, and renewal. In the Jewish calendar, it's the holiest day of the year. And I love this traditional sense of atonement, but I love also breaking up the word to mean at one mint. AT-ONE-MENT. So atonement in the Jewish tradition, from my understanding, is a day they say a prayer to open up the sky. Like it's a day where the connection is greater. And then at the end, they say a prayer to close the sky. There's several days in the Jewish calendar where prayers are said to open and close the sky, open and close our connection. And so atonement, or Yom Kippur, also has this connotation of returning to source, returning to spirit. And it's such a meaningful day in the Hebrew tradition. And I'd love to expand this a little bit to say that, it's not just about repentance or asking for forgiveness, but it's also about returning. In Hebrew, teshova means to come back or to turn back. And this is a turning back to source, a realignment with the divine. And this totally ties in beautifully with a theme that I want to bring up is, as I said, AT-ONE-MENT. Before I go any further, though, I want to talk about Rythmia. I want to tell you about this amazing place called Rythmia, where I have the great privilege to facilitate classes. I'm so honored that I get to do that, and that over the last 8 years, I've had the opportunity to walk this path with thousands of people, watching their healing journey at Rythmia. So if you're looking for AT-ONE-MENT, if you're looking to return to the truth of who you are, Rythmia is the place to do it. In 1 week, it's amazing. So if you have any questions, check out rythmia.com. You can direct message me, and we'd love to talk to you. I'd love to see you there. Now, back to AT-ONE-MENT. I see this as like the true essence of this is reunion, AT-ONE-MENT. And it's about dissolving a sense of separation and remembering that we're one with spirit, one with God. The Course in Miracles teaches that the only thing we need to heal is a sense of separation. And atonement teaches us one with all of creation, that we're one with all of creation and with its creator. And I want to bring both these traditions together, the Hebrew lineage, which invites us to return, to repair, to forgive, and the mystical invitation is to live beyond separation, to embody AT-ONE-MENT. So, many of us hear the word atonement and think of punishment or penance and guilt. But again, when we break the word down, AT-ONE-MENT, we discover the real invitation is to dissolve the illusion of separation and to live in unity with spirit, with one another, with ourselves. This past month, I was in the United States, and what I noticed everywhere in conversations, in the media, in the political climate, was how much fear and separation is alive in the collective right now. People are not feeling safe to speak up. Families are divided. Communities are fractured. And what came up to me, honestly, was a very real human desire to kind of fight back, to prove my point, to not let something slide. This is important. I need to change your mind, Inevitably, that's making someone else wrong. And I found myself getting caught in the cycle of attack and defense. And that seems to be the pull of the world right now, is sort of an us versus them mentality. But Spirit whispers another way. The practice is not to deny what I see or to bypass it, but to ask, how can I find unity in the midst of this division? How can I stay connected when I disagree? To me, I think this is like what's really lighting me up right now is to find unity in division. Because I'm seeing it myself. I'm seeing it in my own family where my brothers and sisters and I have different political views. We are able to hang out together, play cards. I just spent a weekend with my family a couple weekends ago, 4 or 5 days together, and we didn't talk about politics. So everything was cool, but there was that so I want to be able to actually, how can I actually have conversations and not be so triggered? It feels like so raw, so real that I'm emotionally attached to it. What I really saw is, I'm a trained, my undergraduate degree is in rhetoric and composition. I love literature and literary criticism and analysis. And when I'm reading a book or a play or watching a movie, I can look at it from the perspective of analysis. And I find myself today in the political climate getting hooked when I listen to the news instead of looking at it from a perspective of analysis. So how does this translate into how do I communicate with people who have different views than me in a respectful way when so much is feeling like us versus them? And for me, this looks like pausing before I react, and pausing and asking curious questions instead of trying to prove my point, listening with the intention of understanding, not to change someone. Now, this little process of pausing, asking curious questions, and listening to understand, that's pause before you react, listen or ask curious questions, and listen to understand. That is what I tried to do when I was in the United States recently. And I didn't always get it right. But each time I chose openness over attack or defensiveness, I felt myself moving from separation into at-one-ment. And that's what this is all about to me, is not denying difference, but discovering unity within difference, not collapsing into silence. Because that's the other thing. Either I'm going to fight, stand up, speak up, or I'm just going to collapse into silence because I don't want to say anything. But I rather am now trying to find new ways to communicate from love rather than fear. And this is the true atonement. This is the remembering that we were never separate to begin with. So much of this is about forgiveness, forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. And, forgiveness is not overlooking or condoning. But the Course in Miracles teaches us that forgiveness is about seeing the unreality of separation. We don't forgive to change the past. We forgive to change how we see it. And this to me, like, okay, how does that work? How does forgiveness not condoning or overlooking, but seeing the unreality of separation? Okay, how it works for me is if I was in a fight with a friend and I got really pissed at them, they did something and it pissed me off and it was wrong. And then later that day, I got a call that they were in the hospital, they got in a car accident. All that would go away, right? I wouldn't even care about the thing they said that pissed me off. I would be at the hospital. Somehow I can see through the kerfuffle to the truth of unity between us, and all the other petty shit goes away. That to me is an example, a tough example, but that's an example of not overlooking or condoning, but of seeing the unreality of separation. So we need to do that with each other without the car accident, without the critical injury. We need to remember, I want to remember that unity, the unreality of separation that connects us all, because the truth is I can't help someone without helping myself, and I can't hurt someone without hurting myself. But most of us grew up believing that forgiveness meant, either overlooking someone's behavior or trying to move past it, even though I was hurt, or condoning it, like saying, it's okay, I understand why you did that, even though part of us doesn't really feel that way. But that's not what true forgiveness is. And according to the Course in Miracles, forgiveness isn't about excusing someone or rewriting the story, but forgiveness is about seeing the unreality of separation itself. Every conflict, every wound is born out of an illusion that we're separate from God, separate from each other, separate from our true self. And when I believe in separation, I believe that you can hurt me and I can hurt you. But when I remember oneness, I see that only love is real. So forgiveness isn't saying I accept what happened, but forgiveness is me saying I choose to see this situation differently. I choose to remember the truth that we're one and beyond, we're one beyond this story. And I think that's the radical part of forgiveness, that we don't change the past, but we change how we see it. The past doesn't change. What happened, happened. But my perception of it can shift from a lens of fear to a lens of love. And when my perception changes, everything changes. It's the eyes with which we see. When I change my perception, the burden lifts, the wound loses its grip, and that person, that event, that circumstance, that situation no longer has the same power over me. It's that sort of analytical view of I can see what's happening. Oh, these are two characters playing a role. Instead of I'm one of the characters and I'm in the role, it's like, oh, these are two characters playing a role. Isn't that interesting? And both of these characters come from the same source. And this is what I really feel is like breaking loose from the chains, the bonds, the chains, the bonds of unforgiveness. Um, and I really came to this realization that we are one, you know? So here's the practice that I keep returning to around this, which is to pause before reacting. When I feel the heat rising in me, to stop for just a breath, for just a pause, and something opens when I pause for just a moment. And then instead of rushing to defend my view, I can ask a curious question. In the past, I'd ask a question like designed to trap somebody, like, aha, gotcha. There's a lot of gotcha going on right now. But rather than asking a gotcha question, I want to ask a question of how can I understand? Like, really ask a question designed to understand and then listen, like, really listen. And when I shift into listening to understand, something shifts in my body, something changes in me. It doesn't mean that I agree with what's being said. In fact, acknowledging another person's perspective does not mean that you agree with them. Acknowledgement does not mean agreement. That was a huge lesson for me as well. So I can acknowledge, I can listen to understand. And I'll be honest, like I said, I don't always get it right. But sometimes I snap back. Sometimes I walk away. Sometimes I remember to pause and to ask curious questions and to listen to understand. And when I do listen deeply, I feel myself moving closer and closer to that sense of one, at one ment. And it's the thread of unity that always, always is there. And when I pause for just a moment, I can pick it up again. So this is my idea for today's talk at AT-ONE-MENT in honor of Yom Kippur, in honor of the Day of Atonement, to speak about at-one-ment, to speak about unity, to speak about returning to the truth of the that we're all one human family, not just one human family, one family on the planet, animals, insects, trees, water, earth, fire, one family. We all are part of the one thing. All things partake of the one thing. And so on this day of atonement, on this day of Yom Kippur, uh, let us all step into the vibrational frequency of millions and millions of people for thousands of years practicing this tradition, this frequency of returning, this frequency of opening the sky and returning to spirit, to remember the unity in back of all of us. This is the true meaning for me of Yom Kippur, and it is the doorway to at-one-ment. Forgiveness is the key to that door. So this is my idea for today. And I just would invite you to ask yourself, where do I notice separation in my life? Where do I notice separation, and how can I choose oneness? How can I choose in my daily life to practice and know that I am one with all of life, that I can't hurt somebody without hurting me, that which I do to my brother, I do to myself. That which I do to my sister, I do to myself. So I can't hurt somebody without hurting me. I can't help somebody without helping me. We're all one. And happy Yom Kippur. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's so good to be back in Costa Rica. And I'll be back at Rythmia next week. I look forward to seeing, I know a lot of people that are coming next week. I'm super excited to see you all. And I wish you a beautiful day. Many blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you.